The facts of your life are neutral. They are morally neutral. And that's not going to feel good to accept at first. We're basically conditioned to believe that everything is either good or bad, that the circumstances of our lives dictate how we are allowed to feel, and that our friends and family members and partners are responsible for creating our level of happiness. But none of that is true. The things that surround you, all of the things, the big things and the small things, are just neutral facts. What your parents say, how your partner behaves, that email from your boss, how other people on the road are driving, the political structures of your time and place, none of it has any objective meaning. It only has meaning because of the thoughts applied to it. What you think is great, someone else may think is terrible, and vice versa, and neither of you are objectively correct. Once we can see the facts of our lives as neutral, then we can begin to recognize the meaning we are applying to those facts with our thoughts. The distinction between what's actually a neutral fact and what's a thought is perhaps one of the most profound, because when we can see that we're creating the meaning, when we can take ownership of the experience that meaning is creating for us and decide whether or not we want to continue to believe that meaning we have applied, that's power. But what about the major atrocities of the world? Aren't there just some things that are inherently bad? Well, no. Humans decide what's good and what's bad. We do that all with our thoughts, and not everyone agrees about the meaning of good and bad as it is applied to pretty much anything. There are always people on the opposite side of an argument. And even if there weren't, even if we could get every single person on the planet to sign off in agreement on something being either good or bad, that still wouldn't be an objective truth. Just a collection of thoughts that everyone shares. So, does this mean that we should just decide to be happy with the things we don't agree with? Absolutely fucking not. There is no should there. We all have preferences as to the kind of lives we want to live and the world we want to live in. What it does mean, though, is that we get to decide how to think and feel about things that both are and are not in accordance with our preferences. And those thoughts and emotions will dictate which actions we take, which will influence how we show up and what kinds of experiences we create for ourselves. For example, if you'd prefer to have a different person in office, you can decide it's wrong that the current person got elected, feel a bunch of negative emotions about it, come up with all kinds of evidence to support the idea that it's wrong, and spin out in catastrophizing mode about all the things that will happen because they're holding a position you don't believe they should hold. That will likely result in an unhelpful experience that does nothing to create the change you'd prefer to see. You could also decide that the circumstance itself is neutral, but that you'd like to work to change it based on your own preference, not out of a higher moral value, not because you believe you're right and the other side is wrong, but because it's what you want to see in the world. And that will probably feel a hell of a lot more empowering, leading you to take an entirely different set of actions, allowing you to show up differently and creating a different experience for yourself. And I know that story well because it's my story. I lived both sides of that. And the empowerment has been far more pleasant than the catastrophizing. The catastrophizing left me stuck in bed for days on end, having nightmares and panic attacks. The empowerment has allowed me to work in meaningful ways toward the change I'd like to see without reaching a state of burnout. So let's go back to that question again, though. Does this mean we should just decide to be happy with the things we don't agree with? Because this is such a common question and one that supposes the wrong premise. Just because something isn't inherently bad doesn't mean that it is inherently good. Just because you understand that external circumstances don't make you feel bad doesn't mean that you decide they make you happy. Because, first of all, your thoughts cause your feelings, the fact of your life don't. But secondly, the idea isn't that something is good because it's not bad. The idea is that it's neither. It's neutral. It has no meaning until we give it meaning. It also has no inherent moral value because morals are human creations. Moral value does not exist without human thought. So you get to decide with your thoughts. You get to decide what you want all of the neutral facts of your life to mean. They can mean that you're a victim, or they can mean that you're a creator, and you can find evidence for both. And in my program, you'll learn how to decide what meaning you want to apply to everything. Sign up for an exploratory call to learn more about spending a year with me working on separating out the neutral facts from the thoughts so that you can take back your power and break free from the pressure points that you're experiencing now.